Ladies and gentlemen, I am here, Kyle Anthony Trautmann, the man, the legend, a co-founder of the High Vibe Tribe and many projects, hopefully, that we're going to be working on in the future. So, but without further ado, I'm going to give him a little bit of spotlight here. Let him introduce himself so people don't know who he is. They can let's get a little background, a little rundown. It's been a coon's age since we've kind of popped on anything together. Yeah. So take it away, my man.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And yeah, it's been about a year since we've done this. So I'm excited to jump back in different, different waters here. So, but yeah, everybody, my name is Kyle Anthony Trautmann. I am one of the co-founders here of High Vibe Tribe. And I'm also the essentially the lead facilitator at High Vibe Healing. What I focus on essentially is energy. Right. So the biggest thing that we focus on is the 4 pillars of High Vibe Healing. So trauma resolution, how we get the opportunity to remove impedances within the nervous system that were programmed from you from the ages of 0 to 6. In psychology, it's known as egocentrism. That's the first pillar. Second is energy, how we're moving energy through the system, exactly how we can amplify energy and electrical voltage through the system. The third notion is mindset, how you can adapt and adopt to stress in your life, because literally if you cannot adapt and adopt to stress, you literally are useless to pretty much everything, in this society, just because it is so stressful and so toxic. And then the fourth is the mitochondrial matrix, obviously amplifying ATP through the mitochondrial function, making the efficiency specifically of your energy production not only just clean, but also at the same time more optimized to the point where you can handle life just in general. And the biggest thing that we really focus on is the stress components and also the dis-ease orientation. Between 80 to 90% of all disease comes from mitochondrial dysfunction, and it all starts from your childhood programming. So that's where we start. We take those 4 pillars and then we do a sequence specifically. We work within programs and everything is customized for people who come on board. But yeah, man, I'm super, super excited to just kind of open this thing back up, because this is just one of the most biggest passions of mine, is just because if you don't have energy, you got nothing. You just don't have
I love it. And this coincides so perfectly because my buddy and I, Joey Phillips, we've been diving down this rabbit hole of a compound called methyl jasmonate, which is found in jasmine. So it's jasmonate. It's a plant stress hormone, and it's unbelievable what it does for mitochondrial function to skyrocket it. And it's got this really neat capacity to pluripotent induced stem cell induction within the body, specifically within smooth muscle tissue and mitochondria. So everybody out there, that we're kind of talking about the thing that's going around. Yeah, there is actually a natural way to regenerate heart tissue with just jasmine oil and these methyl jasmonates. And we've been researching how this relates to Parkinson's disease, how this relates to all these other things, coming back to the mitochondria and the energy production, kind of much like you're talking about. And to look from a more metaphysical standpoint, jasmine is like liquid, pure love. And because that's pretty much what our mitochondria runs on, is that pure love and passion that's where the healing is. And anything that's not love becomes, that holographic imprint, like you talked about, that's this trauma that we're carrying because there's no eternity in the equation. There's the lack of it. And so what a fun topic. We're gonna have a good day today. So,
and the fun part, exactly what you're saying too, to just pick up off that. And you're talking specifically about this notion of love. And when we talk about just the concept of dis-ease, the 11 tilts towards dis-ease is neurotransmitter depletion. And the 2 most important that aren't really looked at is orexin and oxytocin, and how they work synergistically together to have this like potency blend of the unconditionality of love. And that's the beautiful aspect of it. And
that's so neat, because isn't orexin the fullness hormone?
Yep. That's literally your wholeness hormone, essentially. Yep.
Oh, that's so much fun. You've got the ghrelin monster, which makes you hungry, and then you've got the orexin, and both of those tie into leptin resistance, which is a fascinating topic for weight loss and everything there as well. But it's really cool to bring in that completeness because I was doing a video on clary sage and how it mimics oxytocin in the body, because oxytocin is the hormone of quantum entanglement. It's the one that's released, like, this oxytocin thing is when mothers give birth, they have this giant flood of oxytocin that comes in and signals the body to do all of these different things. And one of the talks I gave, it's on my TikTok, is about when we use a synthetic oxytocin or pitocin and we go to induce women into labor with it, the problem is a synthetic compound doesn't work the same as a natural one. So what it causes, it will increase, labor contractions, because that's what oxytocin does. Pitocin is used for that to advance labor by increasing contractions, but the problem is it doesn't soften the cervix or cause dilation. So now we're getting all these powerful contractions trying to ram the baby through this hole that doesn't have the capacity to dilate and open up appropriately. And so then we get a giant increased risk of about 40% of postpartum depression of women who've used pitocin, because it occupies all the oxytocin receptors, so they can't get that quantum entanglement and the bonding with the baby. Also, when two people come together in sexual intercourse, there's the oxytocin aspect. That's what in the Hebrew, the basari had, or the one flesh. It's all about that being able to quantumly entangle with something or not. And oh my gosh, yeah, I had no idea we were going to have so much fun with this today.
Nice. Yeah. Beautiful, man. I love it. This is a great start.
We're going lots of good directions today. Beautiful. So I think one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to have you talk about, if this is all right with you, let's move into like ACE scores and childhood trauma. And then let's eventually talk about how that corresponds to autoimmune disease.
Absolutely, man. So the one thing that we found, not only just within our research at High Vibe Healing, but also just the myriad of just studies that come out from the ACE study itself, is that the rampant amount of adverse childhood experiences or adverse childhood events, however you want to slice that, it does not matter. It's the experience or the event that's happening specifically from the ages of 0 to 18. So now what we found out neurologically, the matrix, there's more neurological development patchwork done between the ages of 0 to 2. And then egocentrism, there's a phenomenon just in psychology from the ages of 0 to 6. You don't have any mental faculties to build out your own original thought and boundaries, specifically from the outside world, until you're about 7. That's not fully developed until you're about 9. And that still is a broad range because your neocortex isn't fully matured until you're about 28 years old. So you have a lot of time frames, specifically while you're on this planet, where there's so much imprinting that can be happening specifically in your life. And what we found out is the closer we can get to 0 to take out these actual holonomic imprints and these specific things that are happening to you, the broader bandwidth you have to be able to take in more frequency. So what is transpiring just from adverse childhood experiences, the more tally that you have, the higher rampant amount of issues that you have, not only just in autoimmunity, but you have depression, suicide rates, volatility in actual behavior. So we're talking about people that go into prisons, people that actually have more adverse components to risk toleration. So the more things that are happening between 0 to 6 starts to embed this neurological matrix and these neural networks, these neural pathways that start to project specifically into your environment as an adult. Because in neuroscience, whatever is hardwired specifically within the brain has to show up in some form or fashion, specifically in your life. So the thing is, what we found too is that your mind works as a magnet, right? So for instance, if you had an alcoholic father, for instance, and that person, came home and decided to just throw a fit, right? Just go off on you. Something happened, called you worthless, whatever. And you're 4 years old. You have no idea what analytical faculties are. So you're in your world of feelings. So you associate everything as your fault, right? So that imprint starts to embed the tracks, right? Now, through constant repetition, anytime throughout your life until that neural network is now cleaned, starts to break down the entire fortress of your mind. So you start to believe something that is not even true. It's just something that was told to you and you didn't have ability to say no to it, right? Like, oh, dad's drunk, blah, blah, blah. Dad's got issues. This is not my fault. You don't have that ability. So now we found through repetition is creating the width of how long the neural pathway starts to create, and then how much constant feeling starts to create the depth. So the deeper the highway and the wider the highway, the deeper the program and the more it's going to take to actually resolve it. So anything that's happening that's compounded over time, that interlinking. So anything that's happening after that 4-year-old that feels worthless, you could be 24, 25, 44 and still feel that imprint. It compounds on that early imprint and drives that neural pathway deeper into the brain. So now it becomes even a more force to reckon with and becomes even more of a problem. So the deeper the neural pathway, just based off of how many adverse childhood experiences are happening, you're starting to create the degeneration within the system. And the more adverse childhood events or experiences that one goes through, the more compromised the immune system is, where everything in the environment now becomes opportunistic to a compromised immune system.
Yeah, it's so we'll just back up and we'll restate this, just another fun way of saying, basically up until, age 7, you have absolutely no identification of self, of saying, here's who I am, here's what I'm made of, here's how I can rationalize the whole world. And this goes up to 9 in the Jewish tradition. They've got, I believe it's age 13 is kind of when there's a lot of tribes and cultures around the world have the transition into manhood of saying, you're now your own self, that it's a rite of passage of a kind.
Yeah, of course.
So we don't have this tribal, because we're inherently tribal as a species, that we coagulate together. Normally people can only stay introverted for so long before suddenly they decide the universe is really lonely without somebody else in it. And a point to highlight with this is, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that will resonate with this when we talk, sadly, we have the collective masculine is an absolute train wreck at the current moment. And, a lot of women out there will absolutely agree, because there's so many men out there projecting their own wounds onto women. When we take a look at circumcision trauma, this is basically like day 1 of life in the most sensitive areas of the body, that they did MRI scans that it permanently changed the brain. Now, I don't believe anything's permanent, which is, you and I know we can rewire this. But the thing is Kyle was saying, when you get these traumas and start laying down this neurological, not only with that reinforcement, because that subconscious talk that we have, like, what are we, like 0.0001% actually conscious in our day? Right. Along that. So what this is doing is actually creating a feedback loop within itself in your subconscious. Great network marketing motivational speaker Jim Rohn says you attract everything you do by who you are, which piggybacks on exactly what you said, that once this neurological network is laid down, that trauma actually forms a physical network in the brain that's not only width, as you said, but depth. It's going to sit here and chew up energy and act like a magnet, continually attracting stronger and stronger circumstances in your life until you address them. And that's much of what Kyle's work focuses on, is what he does when he works there, is he works to help people, because we've got not only the neurological component to it, that our brains have a physical neurological network that is running the program in there. It's like a computer circuit, that it's sitting there with a program, and you plugged in pieces or wrote a program on the hard drive of it, that it's sitting there when, like, your computer starts up and all the little programs pop up. Most of us have trauma. That's like the main thing that pops up.
Programs.
And not only that, there, as I think, therefore I am, your cells then genetically will be holding all of these memories, because we get ancestral memories passed down from us, that we get not only gifts and skills and abilities can be passed from our ancestors to us. 14 generations back, they did a study on Holocaust survivors, that they were able to find these stress markers, easily 4 generations later, saying, my God, we're still seeing the physical impact of the trauma in the people's genetics and in their stress hormones and stress responses of stuff that's not even theirs. So there's the entire biological component outside the brain network, that every single cell is holding these. And one of my most favorite ways to put it is we talk about chronons. And it's kind of where we made that spirit chronos, this holographic imprint of what it's doing outside of, we're going to look at this more from a metaphysical standpoint of, we have a neurological network that's holding it. We have a physical body, and our cells and our genetics are holding it. But we're also holding what's kind of termed and coined what's called a chronon, or a packet of time. What this trauma is doing is basically accumulating time packets, that you're accumulating mass that's not fractally compressible. It's basically like an anchor dragging in your reality, because as you keep going through these experiences that reinforce and reinforce, you're accumulating packets of time that are dragging through reality, getting heavier and heavier. And unless you set it down and let it go, you're going to keep carrying all of this weight with you. And when you finally set it down, and sometimes letting go hurts worse than holding on.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? It's,
I mean,
without my trauma, who am I?
That's the identity crisis, right? So the beautiful thing is too, is that we emphasize specifically more so on making sure that there's a holonomic energetic optimization. And holonomic in itself is nothing special. It just in neuroscience and Greek means the whole, right? If you're not taking care of all aspects of the whole from an energetic and a high energy body, you're going to have a low vibrational radiance. And that's exactly what you said with Jim Rohn. It's just principles of quantum physics. You attract who you are, right? You don't attract what you want. The world, the universe, God, spirit, however you slice it, doesn't care about what you want. It cares about who you are and how you're accessing your execution plan, essentially. So now the reason why neurophysiological dissociation, which is the scientific term for trauma, has to be addressed is because that program will beget the program. So whatever your programming is, you're going to get more so. And the reason why we have to focus on this, because if you analyze anything through a hypercritical or actual negative based or low vibrational emotion, you're actually making your critical skills completely obsolete. You're actually defracturing your microtubules and the actual fibers that keep your neocortex together. And that's your thinking mind. You need that to be able to access this world, right? This 3D existence. And what's super fascinating about what you're talking about with the chronons and the packets of time, that's all we are. Right. So when we start to do these techniques like known as spirit pulling, you're pulling timelines together to isolate into one place, because you need everything isolated into one place. Because if you're fractured from so many different timelines, you're doing exactly what you said. You're just carrying baggage and you're carrying weight. And I guarantee you, everybody that I've worked with and anybody that's worked through this type of process, you're going to drag also people, your relationships, every single thing that you do, you're going to be dragging them through the mud too. And you're doing it unconsciously.
Kyle and I are good at real punching each other back and forth, being like, hey, let's take my trauma, you bitch.
Right. And that's what's wild about this, man, is because once we start to open up, like it's not that serious, right? Because we've made this notion of trauma resolution like this really painstaking aspect. And it is challenging, no question. Like you have to face your demons to be able to slay anything in life, right? Especially men. I love what you're talking about, because I've actually now 20%. I usually was like about 90 to 91% of where my clientele was working with women. And now it's gotten to about 80% women, because men are starting to see that, the attacks specifically on the masculinity specifically right now is unlike it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, just testosterone levels alone have dipped 40% since 1985. That's just one aspect of it. And then you also have to look at it, well, who was their father figure? Who were the men in their life that taught them how to navigate this landscape to be able to take care of, the provisions in life, to be able to provide the value, right? So, and what's really, really fascinating is being able to work with so many unique, diverse cases that it all comes down to the same thing. What happened to you from 0 to 6, and what adversity do we have to climb over? And then we get to add into the metaphysics and then the exogenous things that get to make life more, exuberant, because we gotta get past that before we get to the energy, the optimization, and before we get into the mitochondria, because your programming from 0 to 2, 0 to 6, 0 to 18 is going to determine your life, period.
You can't fill a glass that's already full. You're like, oh, I want this and I want this. You're like, well, your glass is filled with trauma. So how exactly do you think you're going to fill the cup? And I kind of want to rewind to, you brought up the concept of microtubules, which I love this concept. I think Joey's on, and Joey and I have fun. Joey Phillips, we have some fun conversations about this, because in every single one of your cells, you've got something that are called microtubules. And these microtubules are basically, they're tunnels that are they're funnels that are tuning into the quantum realm of probability and funneling in actuality. And you've got microfilaments that cross connect all these little streams of reality, because there's parallel universes basically we're dragging with ourselves that are the trauma that are beside us, but they overlap in an extent. Sometimes you're operating in a calm state and your trauma's over here, but it eventually, these time streams converge, which is much of the work that Kyle does in some of his sessions, of saying we have our cells literally have little teeny organelles to tune into our stream of reality from our soul and our traumas and everything, that going through the process of, it's pure Scorpio energy of death and rebirth. when you release this trauma, you're going to feel the pain of realities actually dying as these microtubules shatter. And as these microfilaments that connect these streams of reality that were, as they shatter, you feel that Scorpio death of, Jesus said, "Oh, death, where is your sting?" Well, it's in the microtubules and the microfilaments, because that stuff hurts.
And don't fight it. And don't fight it. Like, allow it to happen. Like, the greatest thing that I've learned, not only based off of what you're saying and just in my own work, my own personal experiences, the microtubules inside the mitochondria, because the mitochondria are bacterial organelles, and there's 200 per cell in its most optimized form. And if they're in literally a cell danger response, they're going to be called defense mode. So they're not going to be seeking out any validation from the external world. So when that's happening, let it die. Like, it's okay to let it die. You just want to make sure that you're in an environment that's conducive for your growth to let it die. You know, when you have those opportunities for, you know, the Phoenix moment or the dark night of the soul, like, yo, ride it out. They're the greatest thing. They suck. They suck. They hurt. They're painful, you know, but literally they are the lily pad and launch pad concept, right? You're on the lily pad for a little bit, for an extended amount of time, and then you're going to launch on the pad. So don't try to hang on to the lily pad when you're trying to launch. You know what I'm saying? So I love it, man. I love it.
The pain is so subjective, because we always like, oh, my emotions are hurting me. Be like, guys, number one, we need to look. We live basically like royalty compared to 99.999% of our ancestors.
Right.
I can get up every single day and eat 10 times a day before noon without worrying about where it's coming out. Is it really food if I'm doing that? Not really, but still, you still have some kind of caloric something to move you through.
Right.
So, you know, we love to, be the own, write our own story as dramatic as possible, saying, oh, look at, poor me. Like, we love to step into that frame. And, I'm guilty of it. We all
for sure.
Some kind, but that's because we're still clinging on the lily pad. We're sitting there like, you know what? No, actually, I'd rather go down to the roots of this lily pad and let's hang on down there where it's dark and it's cold and it's gross. Be like, let's stay down there. I don't
feel it. The biggest thing is too, and this is the advocacy that I really focus on when it comes down to working in the difference between men and women, is that women are in the subconscious archetype, right? That is the feminine aspect specifically of our consciousness. So they are in the eternalistic presence. Right. So if anybody has ever studied any type of flow state of consciousness, like the eternalistic aspect of time is the feminine archetype of the subconscious mind. That's where the emotionality is, right? Us men, we are in the neocortex. We're in the conscious aspect, the linear point A to point B. So for us, just in this society, for men, feelings don't equate. Right. If you don't feel good, you still got to get your shit done. Right. So and that's the hardest part about being able to dialogue specifically with the two aspects, because it's a universal law, the law of gender. So you have to know who you're working with. And that's the reason why when people work, one-on-one with me, we have to do a blueprint for you, because there's nobody that's ever going to experience the exact same thing that you did, even if they were in the same experience that you were in. Right. It's so unique to just being able to be like, yo, you are barely human. You are barely human. You are literally just a bunch of computer programs, and all your computer programs are seeking validation to extend the life of that program until that program and that neural code is cut. And that's the only thing that we do with those techniques before we optimize the energy, because those codes, as long as they're in tune, you're just going to get more of it. You're just going to get more of it. That's all you're going to get.
Yeah, and half of you is viral genome anyway. Most of you isn't even you, to be honest with that. And like you said, too, like we're conscious of 0.001% of what's actually going on. So most of you isn't you. It's things we've inherited. It's circumstantial and also we've got cultural society. We've got religious programming, especially men in our society, that we have been so programmed into. There's this artificial alpha status of being like, here's what it is to be a man, and stuff it down, and promise the more women you sleep with, the cooler you are. And we've been programmed so heavily to shut down, because all of us are both expressive and receptive. We're both masculine and feminine. The psychological androgyny is imperative for this trauma resolution. And we've got, such in our society, men are taught so much to be like, to just discard their feminine half. The feelings are irrelevant. They're unimportant. It doesn't, if you feel feelings, doesn't make you a man, stuff it down. And, I take a look at so much of the culture of the way little boys are raised of, suck it up, don't cry, don't, whatever. Like these are
guilty as charged. That's how I was raised. Same thing. And I cannot put that past most people in my generation and the generation ahead of me and the generation behind me. Same thing. It's like you are not validated from the expressive nature, but when you're a child, it doesn't matter if you're a kid, if you're a girl or you're a boy, your faculties mentally are still the same. You're still going to be in that expressive nature. So if you're told at 4, 5, 6 years old and you're a boy to not cry and to stuff it down, that notion, that shame and that guilt will come back in all of your relationships.
Oh, it'll haunt you like crazy.
Oh, for sure.
You'll ruin the lives of everyone around you.
Truth.
Just project these traumas and these programs onto partner after partner after partner, because your children are meant to be highly androgynous. The whole point of obviously there's a biological difference, but that's not that big a deal mentally. Little boys play with Barbies, girls can wear blue. Like we don't need to hurry up and say, oh, better fix their gender real quick.
Right.
If my kid pretended to be a pirate, I'm not going to cut his leg off and give him a hook hand. One of those. So the idea, even as we grow even much older, I embrace a whole lot of feminine crap all the time. I love it though, because of the expressiveness in being able to play musical instruments, or in my graphic design, in my art, and even my creations and different things that I make. I love that expressive emotionality, and severing that off just because, well, man, shut off the emotions. I mean, now there is a time and a point where sometimes once you become older and mature, you do have to suck it up and say, you don't feel like it, but you're now an adult. Whole different story. You're 28, 30 something years old. There does come a point where you do have to put your big boy pants on, but we can't be thrusting that upon children who can't fit into big boy pants yet, that are still learning about both, and to, psychologically impair them so heavily. And one of the biggest things too that we find in, especially American culture, it's pretty prevalent kind of all over the place. So men so often scoff at the idea that there's anything wrong with them. Like when we talk about, especially grown men in my generation very much, and before and after me, say, listen, we do as a species need to start addressing the circumcision trauma and what we're doing with our wounds to the women around us and our partners around us. But there's so many, when I bring it up, 99.9% of the reactions, well, there's nothing wrong with me. Be like, dude, have you seen what you have done to the people around you? You are broke AF. And we got to be real with this. This isn't something that we can sweep under the rug anymore, because that rug is starting to look like the Pentagon's rug, where it's just a heaping mound that we don't have enough rug anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's more imperative than ever. And I think what I'm very, very thankful for to be able to have this conversation is this needs to become more of a staple in society, is men being able to have these conversations, right? Because when you have a tough time, or you have a very, very, very challenging time looking at yourself through a self-inquiry basis just because of your trauma, that's what it does. That programming shuts you down specifically for you to even look at yourself in the mirror. And I've had even moments in my own life, especially when I was going through my drug years, 10, 11, 12 years ago, where I would have even a hard time even looking at myself in the mirror without being on drugs, right? So it's like you have all these masquerades, you have all these band-aids, you have all these masks, no pun intended, specifically with what's happened in the last couple of years, to literally take away the identity of what we're supposed to be doing as men in this society, which is to naturally provide value specifically for our family and protect them. There's supposed to be a security point there. And if you understand the society that we're in, the attacks that are going on into men right now, we wouldn't have the society that we have, especially in this culture. There's just no way, if you look at different civilizations that took their kids, especially the Greeks, that took their kids from the ages of 0 to 6 and put them into training to protect and serve the entirety of the security of the entire nation, and to protect the women in their family. And that was the biggest thing. We don't have those schools and those ancient knowledges of thoughts anymore that are prevalent specifically for kids to go to. Like now you're hurdling them into a school system that is just deliberately making them obedient to things that don't even matter in this world. So that is another challenging thing, is like these kids, not only through the circumcision trauma, especially those that are coming right out of the womb and this is happening, you are literally obediently traumatizing your kid by putting them through these systems that are not prevalent. They're not meant for you to break out of the mental slavery from all these things that are happening. That is the challenging part. And Bob Marley said it obviously the best. I mean, you're the only one that can take yourself out of mental slavery. That's not the actual quote, but that is the notion. Right? It's pretty close. It's like you are the only one. So by having these conversations with other men about, okay, what are you battling with? Right. And then you have the PTSD from the generation of caregivers. And then you have the military veterans. I mean, literally, it's just what it's 22 veterans. Is it an hour or is it a minute that are committing suicide? A day. So, and then also at the same time, 75% of the generation of my age, I'm 32 years old. And then also the generation behind me are caregivers. They're caregivers. I've never even heard of this thing called caregiver PTSD until a couple of years ago. And it's very true because it sucks the life out of you to constantly take care of people who have not been able to take care of themselves. It's all we are is this embedment of programming and then how well we can adopt and adapt to psychological stress, because that is going to be the deterrent of you, and that's going to be the detriment of everything around you. You know, that is the biggest thing that I'm seeing specifically with working with so many people is just how often are you stressed? Where is your stress capacity and how do we optimize your energy? So one, we can take care of the trauma, but then also at the same time, you have a structured plan, right? Because I always tell people this is the greatest analogy that I can take. If you take out the trash, right? If you take out the trash, all the trauma, whatever the programming is specifically from that individual session or for whatever we're working on, guess what you do? You put the trash back in the place that it used to be, right? Yeah. So if you take out the trash, you're putting the trash can back. So we need to fill it up something different, because if not, the same programming is going to keep getting the same programming. So with laws of consciousness, we have to teach neuroscience principles, because just because you have an imprint of a feeling doesn't make it stick there. Hebbian learning has taught us that if we massage over days, over time, over weeks, over months, and you go through the law of repetition, that programming now starts to shape and dictate your reality. So yes, change work is essential. Trauma resolution has to be number one. And then you have to go in and just get energetic. Because like I said, if you don't have the energy, you're not going to be able to provide anything. And for us men, it's more important than ever, because when those women turn over to their masculine traits and it's overabundant, it turns us off too, because it's not a natural attraction point. So it's like, we just got to really take care of ourselves. But also at the same time, we have to have pockets of community, because in cell biology, isolation is cancer. You need to have a social structure. And what we found specifically in our research, 3 meta-analysis has said that your social connection is more important than drinking, smoking cigarettes, having a promiscuous lifestyle, having a risky behavior. Being social and having a connective piece, having people that you trust that you can go to and really build, that network of is more important than anything. So we take care of everything. If we don't take care of energizing the entirety of the social relationships, we're missing the point too. And that's why having these conversations about men's mental health, which is kind of a deterrent of where we were going from, is kind of a little tangent, but it's perfect because it sets the table of what people can get permission and where they can get solutions.
Yeah, and so many people are just waiting for somebody else to tell them you have permission to heal yourself. You have permission to address your traumas and your stress. There was a beautiful study done that rats, even if you get them addicted to cocaine and heroin, if you gave them a social community, they would choose that over cocaine and heroin. Joey and I are actually dissecting, he's been dissecting a gene, that there is an actual gene for this social connection, that when we take a look in terms of like mRNA modification, I want people to think about, there's people smarter than us. I'm not going to claim I'm the smartest guy in the world. I'm pretty close, but there's people smarter than us that know about like the VMAT2 gene or SCLA1A1, SCL1A2, that with this mRNA, we need to understand there are specific genes that we can modify, especially with psychic attacks. They look at the psychic attack of social distancing. That's not even a thing. There's physical distancing, but social distancing is a made-up term and was a psychic attack to deliberately divide everybody. So not only like is there the C word, which shall not be named because the community standards will slam me immediately. Not only was there the C word, but we created this isolating everybody. We had parents going so far and so insane that if they took this artificial test that was rigged to just turn positive, false positives all over the place, goats and papayas rigged it, they were locking their kids in their room for a week at a time, sliding food under the door, saying, this test, thinking the isolation, the psychic attacks that have been thrust upon humanity. These are real things that we obviously need to address, but it comes down to whose responsibility is it to deal with that?
100%.
Obviously, recognizing it is an important aspect to say we've been deliberately divided, and obviously men against women hugely. We've got feminists that hate men, and masculines that hate women. Like, honestly, I mean, half the time you look at the way men treat women, you're like, God, do you hate women the way that you treat them? And with this, the pornography attacks of just this barbaricism and domination style, there's the complete lack of intimacy and love in that. Well,
think about it too. Sorry to cut you off, but think about like all the things for men that are just free, right? Like, you have cheap entertainment, pornography is free. Like, I mean, look at all the emasculating activities that are just there.
Yeah, and now it's turned into OnlyFans. Like, women don't want to do like any actual thing with their life anymore. They're like, just gonna go jump on OnlyFans.
Right. It's just, it's wild to see the access point. And when we get into the psychological, mainframe, specifically when we work on mindset, you have to understand that you also are distracted 56 times on average per hour. And then on top of it, you go in and out of memory 15 to 50 times per hour. So add those together. You literally have a distraction nearly every single minute. So it's like, this is the reason why it is so hard for people to, one, maintain relationships, maintain a sense of identity that's actually worth it. But then also at the same time, there's a rampant amount of depression, anxiety, because people are literally losing touch with reality. And what's really fascinating, kind of like throwing in this perfect curveball, this reality isn't even real. That's the craziest part. Yeah, it's all a holographic projection of your programming. Like, it's just, that's what is mind-boggling to me, and that's when you start to get into these spiritual awakenings, these dark nights of the soul and things like this, where like small talk becomes unbearable. It becomes almost like you're stabbing yourself, because you're like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't care about football. I don't care about politics. I don't care. I'm like, yo, all of this stuff is moving at speeds that I can't even understand. And I'm just trying to just be grounded, right? So I could give some value to the people that I'm working with. Like, it's wild.
Somebody asked me the other day, to be like, oh yeah, I still have a few beers here and there and enjoy doing that, once in a while, and I take a break, come back from it. No judgment if you do or you don't, that's cool. But they were asking me like, oh yeah, you want to get some beers sometime? I'm like, honestly, I either like to just drink with my wife, or I drink alone. Like, it sounds crazy, but I literally don't want the distractions if I'm going to have a couple of drinks, saying the only way I'm going to be doing this with somebody else, we need to have some kind of meaningful conversation, or I've wasted your time and you've wasted mine. Right. I'd much rather sit and just have a few drinks and sit here and write in my notes the whole time and just sit there alone and just enjoy the beautiful breeze. I live in Florida, so I sit here and enjoy the weather, turn on a little music, sit and write notes the whole time, and then say, this was way better than sitting at a bar with God knows what kind of football to entertainment into. Like, I despise that stuff so badly. And obviously I'm polarizing and being judgmental, but there's the value that doesn't add to that takes away from our ability to, develop together. And the only thing that's pushed on that whole thing in the culture is, here's your GMO'd potato chips and, your stupid low quality beer. And here's a couple of women, scantily clad, jumping up and down, being like, just the objectification of this. Right. It's such a programmed, like, my soul despises it. It's repulsive to say that it's so offensive to even energetically be around it. I hate it.
Yeah. And dude, that's the reason why when you start to really tap into, you can call it your ikigai, your purpose, your passion, whatever it means to be, you got this one life, right? And when you get just seismically just smashed just by existence, right? All these circumstances, all the conditionality can happen. You start to realize that picking up the pieces becomes a lot easier because you get to leave everything behind. And all these things are just fragments and pieces. And this is what in physics, holonomic physics is that they're just pieces of things that don't represent the whole anymore. And all those things, once you get that sense and that feeling, that deep resonating feeling specifically of repulsiveness, that's when you get to know that, all right, cool, I'm on the right path.
Oh, I love disgust. Disgust you gotta feel it. Greatest feeling. It is the most powerful, most motivating. If you ever feel disgust, you lean into that, because that, if I come into your house and I got dirty shoes and I track a little dirt in or something, you could let that, depending on where it is, you could probably let that sit for a little while, maybe even days. Be like, I'll clean it up when I get to it, no big deal. Right. But if I come in and I throw up on your floor because it's disgusting, you clean it up right then and there. Disgust is the most incredible, fantastic feeling. And that's what it took with me back when I was 300-pound alcoholic. I would avoid looking, and even sober, I'd avoid looking in the mirror because I was just so disgusted with myself. I finally had to sit and go, I am so disgusted with myself that now I got to change. And I love and hate at the same time, but I love that when I finally feel disgusted enough to say, listen, I've been lazy. My pants don't fit. I haven't getting anything done. My kids have been sitting on video games or a tablet for a little bit. I get disgusted. And I'm like, I love that though, because that is the catalyst for the change right there, to say this lily pad is disgusting. Get me off of.
Exactly. And the cool part that we really get to focus on, even on the epigenetic aspects, those are the genetic markers of death. And death is like the greatest thing, especially in anybody that's triumphed over any type of addiction, any type of mental illness, any type of diagnosis or disorder. It is the greatest launching pad on the planet, because you get to resurface as a better human being. And literally all we are through the law of compensation is what we give, right? We're going to, in direct proportion to what we receive, is what we give. And when you can own up to that, when you can own up to where you are specifically as a person, and then you want to change the dial, watch your whole world shift, because you're going to start to see things fall into place exactly where they are. Support systems will come into place. Your natural energy, which is just your everything, will start to bolster. And then you'll have these incremental steps to just want to be able to, participate in your own life. Right. And I made a post about this not too long ago. Depression itself is the ultimate motivation. Right. Anytime that I've ever been at the bottom, scraping the barrel, is where I know I'm at my best, because there's no other way up besides up.
You back me into a corner. It's time to get out of here. And Joey and I talk about, it's one of my favorite genes. It's called caspase 3. It's called death's sigh, or the reaper. And caspase 3 controls apoptosis. So cancers and viruses will actually hijack this gene and shut it off, because cancer cells are immortal. They just keep living and growing and proliferating. A cell's defense mechanism is actually death. To say, holy crap, we've become infected, we've become mutated, there's something wrong with us. Turn on caspase 3 and signal apoptosis, so the cell kills itself. Well, these viruses and cancers will hijack caspase 3 and shut it off and keep you in this perpetual state. And that's where this, we can look at it symbolistically or metaphysically, of somebody that just sits in the depressive state or the disgusting state and never does anything and says, I fear the death. And so it literally will control full genetic functions through emotions. And that's one of my favorite ones to talk about, just because it's so Scorpio. It's like serendipitous, I think, is that Palo Santo spirit we made together. You made Palo Santo turns on caspase 3 like crazy. Anybody that, just as a quick tip, if you're fearing this change or this death or just the new reality, Palo Santo oil is fantastic for helping to assist with this, to deprogram the cells in a way to basically turn on caspase 3, kill off these different things, and give you kind of that spiritual courage to go through that death process that comes before the resurrection. That's why, Judas was, the entire biblical thing is this whole astrotheology thing, that Judas basically is symbolistic of Scorpio, and that's the one who betrayed Jesus. But the thing is, you got to betray your false self. That's the whole point. You got to sit with your own Judas at your own table. Your five senses, they're betraying you. This reality, it's solid, it's not real. That's the Judas. That you got to betray yourself and these five senses that have been lying to you the whole time, and these self-imposed limitations that we've set upon ourselves and saying, I can't do that, or but that's this beautiful death launch pad of when you fully embrace all of that, and microtubules start shattering and your microfilaments are snapping all over the place, and caspase 3 comes charging in going, kill it all. That is when you finally just sit and embrace that. And sometimes we've got coping mechanisms, and we've got denial, avoidance behaviors that we all go through because we're human. It's a development process. But when you finally sit and go, let it all die, burn it all to the ground for all I care,
Well, this is another thing too that I've really been fascinated specifically, even just by this conversation, but like the correlation specifically to so many different, levels of just energy depletion and blah, 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 that happens in this life. Like Frederick Heidenberger and Gail North came out with amazing work in 1974, and it was the notion of the 12 stages of burnout. And this is the reason why it's so imperative to pay attention specifically to where you are in your journey, because if you keep negating yourself, keep negating where you're at, once you
Those
get
red
to
flags
that,
are not like
right,
they're not cheering you on.
right when you get to that 12th stage, you're done. And that's one of the worst places to be, because you have mental, emotional, and physical collapse. And studies have shown, coming out since 1998, that it takes anywhere from 3 months to a year to have a full hypothalamic, pituitary, and adrenal axis recovery, which is going to be able to stabilize your stress hormones. Because the thing is, when you're depleted and you're not producing any cortisol, you're just as shot if you're producing too much. Like the thing is, like our balance and our homeostatic aspect is understanding how we can take care of psychological stress when it comes down to our energy. So what you said was perfect, because if you're starting to feel like shit is off, things just don't feel, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing right in this world. But if something just doesn't feel off, you really need to sit with it and do the inquiry to see exactly what steps you need to take. Because if you keep pushing, hustle culture on top of trauma will put you in a graveyard. I swear to God.
Oh my God.
I've been there.
Worst day that
it's not fun.
Babe or just constant hustle crush. Be like,
right.
Number one, two, once you start, like, as you continue past all those red flags and you keep going, the value that you're going to provide goes down and down and down, because you're hustling just to hustle. You know, this is the only thing in the, we're one of the dumbest things in the world is that we glorify sleep deprivation and stressing yourself out over things you don't even fucking care about. You start hitting the burnout stage. You don't even care about the things that you're hustling and that you're doing. You're just doing it because hustle culture says, here we go, let's do it. Be like, you can't be doing that. I'm going to throw in a quick mention of comatose oil for the speed which you can reset that HPA access. The studies do come out. It's 3 to 12 months. But when we get into this whole idea of time, pronouns and carrying these things, you can cheat time. The CIA's got fully declassified time travel programs that talk about our capacity to bend time and to cheat it completely. That, your perception of time, spend an hour with a pretty girl or spend a minute on a hot coal, which one felt longer?
Very true.
This perceptive ability.
Very true.
Jesus said, that which I can do, you can do, and more. By following the CIA time travel program, it's kind of what inspired me to create the Comatose. It went, well, wait, we can cheat time in fashions and aspects. We can not only bend it, but we can break it completely.
Right.
It can become, you get on a really good drug trip. Time has no meaning anymore. You can go spend hundreds of thousands of years in a parallel world and come back and be like, I guess I was gone for a quarter of a second. I thought I just blinked. So this relative, Einstein's relativity of time, I don't really, go for that so much because, pinning that, but it's the capacity for human beings to hijack time is imperative to say the self-imposed limitations on how long it can take you to heal. I mean, you get somebody that goes and does a session with Kyle sometimes with some of his stuff, instantaneous, the very next day, autoimmune, that moment, autoimmune conditions are just gone. You don't need, when it comes to healing, we put these ideas and we've got self-imposed and artificially imposed constructs of how much time it actually takes to heal. This is the whole lesson of what Jesus said. It'd be like, it can be instantaneous, that it's just done. I remember when I quit drinking, when I just made that decision, and I wasn't very cognitive at this point. I was pretty dumb, pretty fast. But when I made that decision, it took about 30 seconds, and all of a sudden I heard an audible pop in my brain. The healing was full-blown, instantaneous. I had absolutely, for a decade's worth of alcoholism, I had zero withdrawal symptoms from a cellular level. That the very, like, as soon as I got up, dumped out my second drink, within, guys, I was halfway through my second drink playing video games. Wife wasn't coming home for like, another day. She was off with their friends. I'm like, God, it's a beautiful summer day. I'm going to drink some beers, play some video games, go out with my friends. And I just sat there, and God was kind of like, hey, dude, you really want to be hungover again tomorrow? And I had to sit and just go, I don't think I do. And I sat with it for about 30 seconds and I heard this right up in this compassion and empathy center of the brain, because I had no self-compassion. I had no empathy. And so I had none for anybody else around me. And we can get into my military vaccines and that whole concept a different day, but I made the decision, and instantaneously I had zero desire to drink whatsoever. I had no physical withdrawal symptoms at all. I lost 100 pounds, just went boom in like 6 months, doing nothing special. The instantaneous healing that is possible, especially through Kyle's work. And then I work with I do some of my own work and other tools that I create as well, of saying we can cheat all this. Just remembering the power that you actually have within you to be able to say, especially the biggest one, you find that disgust. Use that disgust to say how disgusted with yourself, and maybe not even with yourself, just with your false reality that you've attracted.
Just the identity and the stories and the mental narratives that you created. Like, the thing is, what people don't understand, which is when you go through ridiculous amounts and copious amounts of self-abuse, right, or just self-induced stress on yourself, you start creating truths that your nervous system interprets, even though they're not true. This is the core belief assessment that we go through when we do consultations. But like you said, this notion of perceptual time bending can happen instantaneously. It's not only just the placebo effect, but it's the concept and the notion of faith. There has to be something that drives you more so than your identity. And that has to be the infinite intelligence, God, spirit, whatever that resides in your nervous system. It's the greatest pharmacy on the planet. You have to drive and you have to tap into it, because if you don't, you are subject to the programming that you are allowing. And the laws of consciousness say this: whatever is imprinted, this comes from diagnosis, this comes from shit that you read, this comes from whatever worldviews that is imposed, exactly, lab tests too, genetic markers, anything, but then it's paired with a feeling that becomes truth in your reality. Right. So if you deny that as an existence, or if somebody diagnoses you with something, but you're like, all right, cool, well, I can resonate because I have these notions and I can corroborate these symptoms, but fuck that, you start to move into a landscape of healing, and it can come extremely fast. I mean, just doing one session with me is in accordance to 4 to 6 months of mental rehearsal. So it's just like, you have to really, really understand that you got to be fed up. You got to have that disgust. I love what you said about that. And you have to know when it's enough. Like, there's got to be something so loud in your head saying, I cannot do this anymore. I have to change. And you cannot put limitations on your potential. Like, the hardest thing that I see with people is they're like, oh, well, this, is there a guarantee here? There's no guarantee, except you are going to go. You're going to die someday, and this aspect of you will transcend to the other side. But while you're here and you resonate with something that can move you forward and can continuously unlock your potential, you have to do it. You have to do it. Like, that's what you're called to do, because that's why you're here, is to be the greatest version of yourself. So, and the people cannot be the greatest versions of themselves until you are the greatest version of yourself. Like, there's a ripple effect here that every single thing that you do affects everything around you.
We stand on the shoulders of giants until we become giants ourselves, and let others stand on our shoulders. That the whole idea is, I hope somebody's better than me at everything at some point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Let them be born into a little, and I'm not going to knock, like, my life's been pretty good, in most cases. Let somebody else come along, that we heal our society and our generation, so that we have children that are raised that don't have to heal from their childhoods anymore. You imagine what they're going to accomplish when they start off with good programming instead of just trash that's just programmed into them for how long, till you finally wake up at 30 years old and go, what in the living hell have I been doing? Like, this, none of this, like, unplug me now, get me out. It's like the Matrix. And the thing is, too, there's ways to cheat. You can piggyback on all of God's programs. That I made a really cool blend called Aries Rising.
I love that. I love it so much.
I love that one, because
it's so good.
Saturn-based concepts are beliefs, reality, matter, karma of a kind, and time. Well, the counterpart, the opposing force to Saturn is Aries. So Saturn is where we hold the Saturn energies are materialized belief systems, materialized matter. When we hold the concept of what is real, even in our head, that's solidified and coagulated through Saturn energies, that you can use Aries energy to push back against these belief systems and against these programs. Now, do you need the tools? No, but can they be super helpful to say, listen, I want to hack reality and I want to cheat. I want to make, just like coming to work with Kyle as well. You can cheat and either piggyback with somebody who's already moved through all of this stuff, or use some of the different creations that, God's put out there and some people have put together to say, well, I'm going to help you cheat. Because that's the whole point. We've been through it enough that I've understood, and you can break it down enough to go, wait, but let's cheat and let's dismantle these belief systems that I've got at a super deep subconscious level. And there's multiple ways to do it. And you could pair multiple of them together, or I'll be right there to tell you, you can do this on your own. You don't need anything. You could sit with yourself when this conversation gets over and go sit down for 30 seconds and just make that decision, being like, I'm disgusted with a bunch of pieces of my reality. I'm grateful for a lot of it, but the pieces I'm disgusted with, let's clean it up. And all of a sudden it goes, boom.
And that right there, what you're saying is the self-initiation. But this is what I found through all my studies, through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, addicts, I forgot what the other one is. Don't quote me. Anonymous? Yes, Narcotics Anonymous, all, recovery groups. The number one thing is accountability, because what it says is to account for your ability. So once you make that decision, the greatest thing is to find people that you can literally tag with. Right. And then they will keep you accountable to, one, not stay in that rut, or to not stay in the complaining phase, and to not stay in that depressive, kind of murky waters. Because if you want to take it all out on your own, I guarantee you, all the studies that I've done on the greats, they all have said this. I've never done this by myself. I've never done this by myself. So yes, you have to make the self-initiation to change, because no one will do that for you. No one will take the action for you. But all the greats have said, I have a team. I have support. You have accountability. This is the reason why coaches hire coaches. This is the reason why mentors hire mentors. Literally, I work with 3 professionals myself, and I still run my own professional practice. Like it doesn't, like it just doesn't stop. I'm going to give you the stage
for just a second. I'm going to go use the bathroom. Kyle, go ahead and just keep this going. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I really, really want to emphasize with people about the epigenetic markers when it comes down to the thought process, right? So when we break down high vibe healing in its smallest increments, right, everything is energy. So you have massive, massive, massive amounts of energy potential just locked up specifically into the neurological matrix that you have within your being. So if you don't take into account what the programming is, right, what are the I am statements? What are these things that you are now putting out into the universe through expressive nature? Because all your beliefs are expressed. And if you have multiple beliefs stacked onto beliefs, these are what create your perceptual value and how you color the world. Have you ever been around a person who is cloudy or gray, or kind of feels like they just have a dampening, or they're wearing a giant wet blanket? One, it's because they had something happen to them currently. But if that's a consistent thing over time, that's a temperament, a mood, and it starts to become a personality trait over time. So now once that happens, that's just a vibrational pull. That is the vibrational radiance based off of the beliefs expressed over time, which creates the coloring of your world. So it's like, now people don't realize, like, psychological studies have shown, like, even a pair of glasses, right? They gave participants these glasses that had 2 different frames, 2 different colors of their lenses. And they went around for 2 weeks and just wore them off, and, did whatever, go to the park, go on date night, go to work, but take them off before you go to bed. As soon as you wake up, put them on before you brush your teeth for 2 weeks. And it takes 2 weeks to psychologically adapt to your environment. After 2 weeks, they literally brought them back in, had them all in the glasses, and told them to look at specific different aspects, and they couldn't see the colors. The colors had adapted to the cornea, so you could actually see full-fledged what was happening in the environment without the different color of lens. So that tells you that we literally just color our world based off our perception, not with our eyesight. So this notion of, when we get into the illusionary aspect, the holographic nature of the universe, what Adam was saying earlier, these 5 senses are lying to you all the time. So now when you can drop into your 6th sense, your proprioceptive nervous system, where God resides within the nervous system, that is the untapped potential where you have to access and communicate every single day. That's why when we teach people at High Vibe Healing, it's not just trauma resolution. We have to teach you morning flow, power down. You have to respect your mitochondria, because they perceive the environment for you without your permission. That's the most fascinating thing about mitochondria. They have their own consciousness without your permission. They literally will perceive the environment as this is safety or this is adventure without your permission. They don't care about you. It's just what type of environment you're putting on, and associated behavior. Studies have shown 90 to 95% of your decision-making is based off your micro and macro environments. So make sure you're with good people, you're with good energy. And if you're going to take on a journey of change, make sure you're doing it with people who have been there before, because they're going to push you without pushing you past your limits. And that's when you know you're really with awesome people, because they're going to support you on your journey.
And one of the most imperative things to do with that, just make sure you have fun with it.
Seriously.
Don't take
Christ.
yourself so damn seriously.
Seriously.
Because
Yep.
when we get into the mitochondria without your permission in cells, the thing is, Bruce Lipton's work in epigenetics, Joe Dispenza style stuff of saying, here's the thing, your cells don't actually really care about your environment that much. They care more about your perception of it. So you can take two people in the exact same situation. If one hates it, it could be a pleasant situation. Like if I'm sitting at a sports game, some people would find that pleasant. I hate it. It's going to physically make me ill.
Yeah.
Or you take and you put me in a weird position, situation, stuff that is really weird for most people, but I love it. Your cells will respond to the perception of how you're interpreting it. So, one of the things that I'd like to put it out there, because, there's so much fear that gets stuffed into everybody of, we got the geoengineering and the sheddings and all this crap that gets put out there. The thing is, if you're interpreting, say, a toxicity of a kind of, oh my gosh, this stuff's great, this guy is going to kill me. Listen, it's maybe not great. But if you're constantly perseverated and fixed on that of saying, well, I can't have, if my food isn't organic, it's going to kill me, once in a while.
Yeah, right.
When you go too far into that direction, you're going to manifest your own demise because of that perception of your environment. If you're instead like, listen, I got power of Jesus or God or whatever you want to put within me, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not going to, because this is all fake anyway. You can just literally, you can sit and build programs, spend some, like Kyle talks about in the morning, spend some time alone, just putting programs into your head that doesn't matter what it is, my body will be fine. That you don't need every single supplement under the planet in order to heal. That's just, I love tools. I love using supplements. I love using this stuff. It's cool, but I hate the idea that you need to use these things in order to heal. You don't need any of it. Right. You can literally build these mental programs yourself. And will they probably take time? Yeah, because you're reprogramming all the way deep down into the subconscious, and this takes practice. Now, you can take other people like, say, Kyle, myself. We've already done this a lot. We're real good at it because we've been through some crazy crap in our life and some real hard self-destruction and a lot of toxicity, and still came back from it. You can actually use, other teachers, other mentors, other counselors, that we call spiritual healers, whatever you want to do. Right. You can cheat and piggyback on the programs that they've created, and they can download them into you, for lack of a better way to put it, and use their program as a template, stuff it inside you. Gross, but but there could be, a conscious exchange of saying, listen, you got some great subconscious programming that, how do you deal with this stuff and it doesn't impact you or whatever else? Be like, well, I can honestly just give you the programs. It's like getting a little, DVD of some kind, being like, hey, can you just like, whoop, here we go, install this? Yeah, throw it in.
Yeah. And the education is only one thing, right? So the one thing that I really fascinatedly have just really honed in when it comes down to the notion of trauma and what it paralyzes you into the emotions of overwhelm is the only thing that's going to get you past it is action. So you're going to have to do it hurt. You're going to have to do it depressed. You're going to have to do it wherever you are to get to where you are. Because if you just stay in that pot, guarantee it, you're making your brain worse. It is shown through studies that if you try to analyze your situation through negativity, you're making your brain worse. You're actually making it worse. So right now in this country, in the United States, 1 out of every single person is going to be diagnosed with some form of dementia in their lifetime. That should scare the shit out of you to want to do your work, right? It doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. It does not matter. You got to start somewhere. The only reason why people like myself and Adam are extremely advantageous to work with is because you have years of experience that are going to be able to download into you. That's it. Other than that, like he said, you have to start, you have to initiate, you have to get up and stop going through the same rotations that are going to continuously get you the same results, right? This life is too awesome, right? And I'm not going to lie, every single time I've gone through darkness, which is too many times that I care to count, like literally every single time I've gone there, I know that I'm going to bounce back 10 times better. And I know I'm going to hit some other time where I'm going to have darkness too, where I'm going to have that repetitious experience to be able to get me out of that more quickly, right? You have to embrace those shitty parts of yourself. You have to embrace the suck. One of my favorite quotes right now is embrace the suck. Yeah. Right. And then just get over it. Right. And then
it's all a choice in how long do you want to sit in the suck.
Right. That's it.
All up to you. Like, you got to embrace it, but how long you want to stay there before you just clean it up, that's all up to you. Yeah. And we're all good at, I'm good at it too. Be it staying down there because it's like, oh, it's just,
you gotta figure something out.
This and I got this and oh, how unfair, whatever. But it's like, I can't do that for just me. Right. I can't do that for more than a little bit. I've got to just be like, listen, this was not fun. So let's get back to doing something fun. Like this is not going to work for me. I don't have time. Well, I do, but I don't.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm not going to make time for it.
Well, it's tough too, especially this is also another thing too. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, a business person, you want to be a husband or a wife, or you want to be a parent, the world is going to come for you. The elements are going to come for you. There is a tornado, an earthquake. There is an avalanche and a mudslide waiting for you at the back door. Like life is just going to happen. And the greatest humbling experience that you can have is being overly confident and arrogant about you thinking you're impervious to the world, right? You are going to get knocked down. And this is the reason why people work in these fields to be like, look, it's not that serious. Right? Stay there for whatever you need to get out of it, but we need to get you out of it because you have value in this world. Every single person listening to this, anybody that watches this has a value in this world, and whether you know it or not, that's the journey, right? It's never about the destination because there is no destination. It's just about while you're here, enjoy what you can and literally love people through this process because we're all human and we all go through the shit. We all go through the shit.
And there's a giant adventure waiting for you. 100%. Once you set your sights on that, get the bigger picture of saying, guess what? Life's got lessons. Shit happens. That's okay. And sit in it. How long you want to stay in the sit and the suck and embrace it, that's up to you. But you take a look and, it's one of those hard things to, be able to, be objective enough to look into the future a year from now saying, okay, I'm going to make a decision to do something different, to start making any kind of change. Anybody who wants to say, what's the first thing that I can do? Go to the gym. Exercise. Yeah. I don't care. It is one of the most powerful antidepressants on the planet.
Dude,
do not come bitching to me of saying, oh, I'm depressed or whatever else. If you can't get your ass to go do 20 minutes, even on like an elliptical.
Yeah, seriously. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just have to say my own story from last night. I got my ass into 8 miles on the bike. I got off and I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like,
gym, 5 tries and abs today, right before I came doing this, getting a shot. I'm like, I feel freaking great. I feel powerful. Like I got this great pump going on. My body's happy with me. My brain is it puts you in such a better mood that it doesn't have to be much. I don't care if you do 20 push-ups or something. Be like, fine, you know what?
That's it. And there is so much ATP production happening from the mitochondria within your muscle fibers, and you cannot produce them without moving them. So the thing is, when we go through high vibe healing, holonomic energy optimization, what we do in these programs, you have to do it. You have to do it because I swear to you, and this is for all those YouTube videos and all those other like type of, rah motivation. And the motivation is bullshit. Nobody's going to, it's not a thing. So when you realize that you're going through the shit, you're going through a breakup, you're going through a divorce, you're going through whatever you're going through, right? Your house is getting repossessed or whatever it is. The thing is, you're going to be okay. But if you stay where you are, it gets worse. Like there's going to be a time where you're going to have to take that action. And like I said, there is no law of immovable components. There's law of vibration, law of action. You have to make it known to yourself that once you get past those adversities, that's the reason why we can't focus so much about trauma. Trauma and the programming is one thing, but you're still going to get hit with life and adversity. Teaching people the difference between adversity and trauma has been one of the greatest gifts of my practice, because people make them seem like they're the same thing, and they're not. They're not. Trauma and adversity are two different things. And when you can decipher the two and know how to handle the psychological adaptations and adaptations to stress, dude, your life starts to change. Like it really
Trauma is
does.
the perception of adversity. Adversity,
Beautiful.
I could say
I
on
love
the
that.
we got trauma, adversity, growth. They're
I
like,
love it.
sweet, I got
I love it.
motivation to make me grow. Like it's all your perception of the same thing.
I
Now,
love it.
So, you know, sometimes it's real hard to take a different perception of, let's take like male infant circumcision.
For
Pretty
sure.
hard to reframe that one from a growth thing, but it can be done. So
Yeah.
let's just avoid that adversity, because that's a choice right there for, you know, most people that as a society, let's start making these conscious choices to say, let's actually just deal with the real adversity that we're actually supposed to get, instead of compounding our own problems by not addressing our own traumas and just, you know, checking out from it, saying, not my problem. You know, one of the things of, as we say, coming together as a species, you know, so many people are upset about, say, election fraud and everything else, you know, in the United States. Very real thing. But here's the thing. We as a country have been screwing with people's elections for decades. We've been messing them up all over the place, but you didn't care until it happened to you. So if we can start coming together with the foresight of saying, well, listen, what, by my not caring about something else that maybe happens clear across the world, what am I actually doing to even my own reality? Because of that sort of stuff. So this coming together, a lot of the things, you know, I'm going to give everybody permission to tell yourself, you can do all of this by yourself. Believe in you, 100%. However, unless you've got that clear internal, I've got this, I'm going to do it, I'm capable of it. Like when I quit drinking, I needed no programs, I needed nobody else, I needed nothing. I'm just like, I don't care, I'm done, I'm good. Like, I've had this experience and the hangovers for long enough. That's my motivation. Poof, I'm good. So, you know, and it was 6 months to a year before I even thought about having a beer again. Like it was just that clear. However, if you don't have that clear level of resolute, ironclad, this is going to be this way, please do not be afraid to ask for help.
Seriously.
So much in the, you know, the community, especially for men, there's this, it's so shamed to be able to come to somebody and say, I need help. There's stuff in my play, there's stuff I can't do by myself. I don't want to lift my bed if I have to move it around or something all by myself. There is no shame in saying, hey, can you help me do this? Because I'll help somebody else or you later on in the past. But like, don't be ashamed or afraid to ask for help if you need it.
100%. And and the way that I can wrap this up too is, this is a great conversation that I was actually having earlier today. You know, you're going to find yourself in misery when you're taking, right? The people that I find that have the skill set of happiness and, you know, optimizing their energy are the people that give, right? But the thing is, when you're in any stage of energy depletion or exhaustion of any kind, that giving starts to become fraudulent. And that fraudulent, people can pick up on that. It's your vibrational radiance. So this is the reason why you have to pour into yourself. And the reason why I tell people, when it comes down to change work, changing your paradigms, changing your mental programming, literally just changing your life, it is a selfish endeavor. And if you have to cut out people and you have to cut out activities and you have to cut out certain things that you're doing, you have to do it, because you can always revisit it, because we're just vibrational people. That's it. That's all we are. We're just vibration. We're just energy. You can always pick back up, you know, all those activities that are void because you don't have the energy for them. And that's the reason why it's super, super imperative. The miserable people are the takers, right? And the people that are happy are the people that consistently give. So if you have to give to yourself, do it. And that's okay.
Yeah, it's if you need to take that time and if you need to cut off a whole bunch of stuff to get yourself right first, do that, because your healing is your gift to the world.
Seriously.
You cannot pour from an empty vessel. If you're broken, you can't fix things. If you're broken, take the time. Be self-care is not selfish. If you need to do this for you to get to a place where you need to be, and then you come back to the world, that is okay. Do that. And not only is it okay, make it a priority. Because you're important.
It's you. And that's what we focus on high vibe healing. Literally is, you have to build out you. You have to start advertising yourself as the greatest business on the planet. And you have to operate yourself as such. That's the biggest thing that I've learned, especially when it comes down to working as an entrepreneur, a business owner, or whatever you have to provide yourself as such. You have to provide yourself with the stencils of optimization to be able to take on what the world's going to throw you. Because just as much as Adam knows it, just as much as what I do in my work, we're in the business of solving problems. If you're in business of any kind, that's what you are. You're solution oriented. So you have to become your number one solution to be able to provide those solutions, because you're going to get thrown a lot of problems.
You're the number one investment you can ever make. You're the only investment that will dictate how many other investment returns you're going to get. So if you don't invest in yourself and if you don't develop yourself, you're never going to get any other dividends from any other investment. You might win a lottery or something, but guess what's going to happen?
You're going to go right back to baseline.
Because you didn't keep your own investment, because you're going to lose it all because you didn't learn how to take care of yourself and manage your energy first.
That's it. That's how we do here at High Vibe Healing. Manage your energy, manage your time, and we're good to go, man.
Speaking of that, let's manage our energy and time, and we have been on for over an hour. Let's cut this to a close, and we can have people comment from the video, and we can see what direction are we going next, and what should we talk about next time.
Awesome. Sounds good, man.
All right. Kyle has been tagged in the Facebook group here. I'll make sure I get an email sent out with recordings, and I'll make sure you know how to get a hold of him, get a hold of myself, and I'll make sure it gets plastered all over the place and make this easy to find for everybody, so you can watch replays if you missed it. And I'll make sure we got the contact info so that you can get both a hold of Kyle, myself, and we will go from there. So everybody, thank you, because I know your time is valuable. I had fun, Kyle.
So did I, man. Always do.
We gotta do this again, because this is just entertainment. This is awesome.
Awesome. Beautiful.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great one, everyone.
Take care.